Hey friends, Kenna here with a really exciting announcement. The Martin Center for Integration, the organization that brings you This Whole Life, is running a virtual DBT group for Minnesota and Wisconsin residents beginning January of 2026. DBT stands for Dialectical Behavioral Therapy, and it's got 4 main pillars: mindfulness, distress tolerance, emotion regulation, and interpersonal effectiveness. In short, DBT skills are focused on growing our capacity to live in the both and, to live in the tensions and the seeming contradictions that can make our lives and relationships feel so burdensome. You guys, this is the bread and butter of what we do in our clinic and what leads to daily mental health and flourishing. The group is focused on psychoeducation and skills. It's not traditional talk therapy. It's going to be led by the incredible Carmen Franzmeyer, a licensed marriage and family therapist here in our group, for 10 Tuesday evenings beginning January 20th, 2026. So for more information, check out martincenterforintegration.com/DBT. And now on to the episode.
There is likely some level of sin there that needs to be confessed. It needs to be repented of, and it needs to be healed by the mercy of God. And also, there is something to that is really healthy to investigate and to ask the question, what could I have done earlier in the day to be able to be in a place to respond to that particular situation better? Welcome to This Whole Life, a podcast for all of us seeking sanity and sanctity, and a place to find joy and meaning through the integration of faith and mental health. I'm Pat Millay, a Catholic speaker, musician, and leader, and I'm here with my bride, Kenna, a licensed marriage and family therapist. This is the stuff she and I talk about all the time, doing dishes in the car, on a date. We're excited to bring you this podcast for educational purposes. It's not therapy or a substitute for mental health care. So come on in, have a seat at our dining room table, and join the conversation with us. We are so glad you're here.
Welcome back to This Whole Life. It is so good to be with you all and to be with you, my darling one.
Great to be with you.
It is another episode with just the two of us. For better or for worse.
You're going to sing the song?
No, I'm really not.
Just the two of us.
Yeah, who is that again?
You and I. I want to say Will Smith.
Yeah, it is.
Is it?
With his son?
That's
anyways,
where my trivia runs
show
out.
Notes. There's space for that in the show notes.
Text to the number below who is the other person Will Smith is singing about. I'm going to Google it 5 seconds after we get done recording, but I would still like to know if you know.
So just an episode of the two of us. We are talking today about one of the, probably the thing that I go over with all clients. And we were talking about whether we had done this before and kind of are aghast that we haven't covered the window of tolerance before, because we teach
87 episodes without talking about it. Yeah.
We teach it everywhere we go. I talk about it with every single client that comes to my office, particularly couples and families and parents with their kids. And we haven't yet done an episode. Yep. It's just that thing that we do all the time. And so it got overlooked. So here we are, episode 80 something.
Better late than never.
We're talking about the window of tolerance. But before we go there, let's do our highs and hearts. Let's check in. I feel like I've been with you a lot lately, but not really been with you. So I'm curious, not in the married sense, but I'm curious, what's going on with you? How are you? Where are you?
That's a great question. Good to see you too. Yeah, it'd be good to catch up. I'm glad that everybody else can be a party to you and I actually catching up for the first time in 2 weeks. My high is I could say a lot of things. The season that we're in right now is one of my favorite ones. We are in the Advent season, so we're prepping for Christmas. And yes, I am taking Advent seriously, but I'm also not shy about Christmas music this time of year. I think both things can be true. It's the great both and. I'm preparing for Christmas, and it's Christmas music. It's the kingdom of God. It's here, but it's not yet. So I'm trying to live into that. So that's great. A goofy high is just The final season of Stranger Things has begun, and I've had almost no time to watch any of it, but I've watched a little bit at the gym and things like that. It is such a fun show.
Yeah. What season is this?
Season 5.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the final season, the grand finale, and it is just so, especially for people, I don't know why people who are younger than like 30 enjoy it. I think it's a great show objectively, but the nostalgia factor of it being like set in the 80s, the whole thing is like a very Goonies, Stand By Me kind of vibe. It's just so fun. I was on record as a child of hating scary things. I famously sat in the car with my friend's mom when I was like 9 because I was too scared to go into a haunted house. So all my friends went into the haunted house and I sat in the car with the mom because I was too scared. I famously slept on my parents' bedroom floor when I was like 14 because I watched Jurassic Park and I thought the raptors were going to come get me for real or something. Anyway, I don't like scary things. I still don't watch horror movies. It's a little, I just don't enjoy that, but this is like the perfect level of like scary enough to be interesting, but so fun and goofy and hilarious and whatever. Anyway, so there's that. The actual high is that we had our first 7th grade basketball game on Monday evening. And our son has, he's played basketball. It's like a 3rd year, probably something like that. I coached last year and this year. So I know some of the boys that are on the team already. We've had a couple practices, but it's still really early. Both teams were just, a little raw because it's the first game of the season. They're trying to figure it out. And we won a tightly contested battle against a team that barely beat us last year. Yeah. The whole game, I don't think any team was ever winning by more than 5 points.
Yeah.
Right down to the wire. It's the bit where they were down by 2 shooting a free throw. So they tried to miss a free throw on purpose to get the rebound. And we were able to get the rebound and kill the clock. It was the coach's heart was beating for an all important 13-year-old basketball game.
Catholic Athletic Association basketball game.
But it was really fun. Yeah. The heart, I think, and you and I have talked about this, is just, it's the past week or so. And part of it is like, we're coming out of Thanksgiving, so anytime that you're on vacation, it's totally worth it, and you should always take a break when you need it. But it's always a tricky to come back from time away because everything feels like it's piling up while you're gone, And especially right now, like I told you yesterday, it feels like I ran an 8-hour sprint yesterday and somehow lost ground in all of the things that are required of me at work and at home, and just feeling overwhelmed at the moment. So just nothing to do but keep plugging away, but it's a challenge. Yeah.
Thank you for plugging.
Thank you.
On behalf of all of us.
You're very welcome.
Children who got taken to the dentist.
Yes, they did.
The bills that are getting paid. Thank you for plugging.
Eventually they will. Yep. Yep. And you?
So I would say in this season, right, it's winter. This is the classic, like the Christmas concerts and the potluck dinners and the, it feels like any social circle I have is like making plans right now to hang out, which is so fun. Like it's a time of being aware of how richly blessed I am with people. The buying of the presents. You and I have 2 nights this week, set aside to just map out Christmas and figure plans out. But I would say the hard within that is also the illness factor and just the surprise. There's just more anomalies, more last minute tasks and asks that get piled on. And so it's living in this place of pivoting, which I'm actually realizing connects well to our topic today of the window of tolerance. But that's a hard, and it's not a crazy hard. It's not a hard that I'll never see again. It's not a hard that I've never known before. Like it's just this like living on your toes and kind of living in a greater state of hypervigilance, and spoiler, I'd say like living closer to the edge of my window. And I'll explain what that means a little bit, but just, and that takes energy, like to live in that place, that in and of itself, if that's your baseline, like that requires more energy than being able to trust that like the plan is in place and we're ready to go. So that's the hard.
Yeah.
And it's not as hard as it would be if not for my high, which is that through someone I follow on my personal Instagram, I do a lot of like mom and professional stuff on my personal Instagram. I got introduced to actually a Minnesota native, but she's known around the globe. Her name is Kelly Nolan, and she's a former attorney and now like basically trains women in a time blocking, time management system. It's meant for working women, but I would say it's good for anyone because And I'm not a paid, like I've actually not even done her paid program. I've only done her 5-day free like trial deal.
Yeah.
I haven't actually worked with her. But it's been amazing on a couple points. So the high for me is doing the Bright Method has helped me see just how hard I am on myself. And I think I notice this in my clients. I notice this in you, Pat, like how hard we are on ourselves, how quickly we can shame and blame ourselves when we don't get it done, when we do notice that we are behind, when we have dropped a ball. And the Bright Method has like opened my eyes to that. And just that alone has helped me to really like question, like, yeah, am I confusing my being with my doing? Like, am I getting the cart before the horse? And am I forgetting where my value, my worth comes from? And it's like one thing to go, oh shoot, I didn't do that thing. I need to figure out where that's going to fit today. That is very different than what is the matter with me? Like, I must not care.
Yeah.
There must be something wrong with me. I'm an idiot for being overcommitted. I'm selfish for taking the time last night to go on a date with you instead of working on this project for like it. Yeah. So that's been one big piece. The other thing is it has helped with, and someday maybe we'll interview Kelly on the podcast around the idea of mental load, because that's a huge piece of what prompted her to create the Bright Method. But the mental load is real, and we put some of that on ourselves when we download our brains, but in many places. And so one of the elements of the Bright Method is really finding your calendar, your electronic calendar is what she wants you to use, is the home for all of your thoughts and all of the things that need to get done. Versus that one Post-it note, the back of that envelope, that note in my phone, the draft in my email. Like literally I store the whiteboard in the pantry. Like I store things.
I'm laughing because those are all real examples for you.
It's true. And then that requires a certain level of energy to remember, like, I know I wrote what we needed from Costco somewhere.
What
Where did I put it?
Was that on?
So I will stop there because I really do think someday we should interview her. But that has been just a high. And even today you said like, oh my gosh, you prepped this episode last week. Like what the heck? And I was like, yeah, that's the Bright Method for you. Like I just am feeling more on top of it. So as much as I'm pivoting right now, it feels doable. The pivots feel doable and less catastrophic because of the Bright Method. So thank you, Kelly Nolan. And we'll put the link to her website because you too can take the 5-day free trial and see what I'm talking about. So we'll link that up in the show notes.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm glad that your mental load is a little bit decreased. Congratulations.
Me too.
Yep. You need all the help you can get, and so do I in this world. I am, as you said, excited about this topic because I'm shocked that we made it this long without talking about it.
Yeah.
We train people with this all the time. You talk to clients about it all the time. It definitely has helped me understand what I need and what's going on inside me when I feel totally wigged out and like the walls are closing in and I'm spinning out of control. You know what I mean? So it's this idea of the window of tolerance. First of all, I know that tolerance has bit of a loaded connotation in the culture today. Yeah. We are not talking about that kind of tolerance. This is not a bumper sticker with a bunch of different symbols on it. This is not just tolerating behaviors of the people around you. That's not what this kind of tolerance means. When we're talking about tolerance, we're talking about how I internally can tolerate my response to the world around me, how I can tolerate the data that I'm presented with, the things that happen outside of my system, and how I respond to that. And when my response feels like it's maybe getting out of control, what I can do about that response. Yeah. So that's the kind of tolerance that we're talking about.
Right.
So
like a neurological nervous system based tolerance.
Bingo. Yep, exactly. So yeah, how would you kind of introduce this topic to somebody who has never heard of it before in their entire lives, like many of our listeners probably?
Yeah. So first of all, to say that this comes out of Dr. Dan Siegel's work, and again, we'll link up in the show notes to his website. But he's done a lot of work around like what is the mind and then this window of tolerance. He's a great model of the mind, of the brain that you can share with children that helps them understand their nervous systems and the ideas of regulation and dysregulation. So the idea of the window of tolerance is, let's say we're looking at a number line from 1 to 10. And Siegel says all of us humans have a sweet spot, and it actually varies from human to human. But let's say something in the 4 to 7 range. there can be stimulus coming into my system, right? Information, things are happening to my senses. My senses are being presented with things. And I can process that, and I can stay in this place of regulation, of I am in the driver's seat, let's put it, of making choices, engaging my will, engaging my intellect around what's going on. Let's call that 4 to 7. Then he says from 1 to 3 then, so if we look at this number line going from like high to low, so 10 at the top, 1 at the bottom,
right.
For those of you who are only listening and not watching on video.
Your hands are very descriptive though.
Yes,
You're doing a great job.
Yes, I'm going to hold them right here. So if the window of tolerance is in the middle, right? And if you truly think of a window being placed in the middle of a wall, the space below the window, he calls going down. I say down and out of my window. Mm-hmm. And he says that space is characterized by a lack of energy. And we will see it usually in rigidity, rigid thinking and rigid behavior. So this is, if we're thinking about going into our brain stem, into that more reptilian brain, that fight, flight, freeze brain. This is a freeze state, right? When someone freezes,
sure,
they get stiff, right?
Yeah.
And they stay there, and you can't move them. You can't make a kid come out of freeze. As much as you try to push them, it usually makes them even more rigid.
Tighten up, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so he says that is the down and out. It says like 1 to 3. Then if we go above the window, so from the top of the window to the ceiling, let's say that's the 7 to 10.
Yep.
Or 8 to 10. That's going up and out of the window, and that is characterized by chaos. So again, in contrast to maybe the rigidity, the frozenness of going down, up looks like frenetic flight, fight, and chaos. So to put examples on that, this morning, we just both got to the office. It's actively snowing in Minneapolis.
Yep.
We're in the city, St. Paul, Minneapolis, where, just the lore is like it doesn't ever get shoveled or plowed like in a timely fashion. So the drive was dicey, and I felt myself like living very, very much at the top of my window. And it didn't take much to flip me out, right? One kid pitching a fit, one kid yelling at me about how they couldn't get their coat on, and I was up and out of my window. And what I look like is barking orders. I'm like, you grab that bag, you shut the door, you grab her hairbrush, just that kind of chaos. Yeah. Whereas the down and out, I think of this more like when I get home from work or school, like picking up the kids, and before I've got to do the next load of the dinner bedtime kind of long haul, that 3-hour, again, a marathon at a sprinter's pace. Yep. And I can kind of have these moments of just being stuck on the couch or just standing at the kitchen island and kind of overwhelmed and unsure what to do next. Mm-hmm. So the up or the down, actually what they share in common, we could say they're two sides of the same coin, because what they share in common is that our prefrontal cortex has gone offline, right? So that's the most sophisticated, that's the front, I'm pointing to the front of my brain for those of you who can't see. That's the front of our brain. That's the most sophisticated part. It's the last part to finish cooking, so to speak, right? In our mid-20s. And it's the part that's in charge of all of our executive functioning. So that's the part that we need to be creative, to be flexible, to problem solve, to recognize that my child in their rigidity doesn't need me to get chaotic and big and demanding that they come out of their rigidity. They need me to soften and give them signals of safety. That is what we need. And that's precisely what we're not getting in those moments, because that has shut down and we are in that survival brain that is that fight, flight, freeze. Mm-hmm. So what am I missing?
Yeah, I like that a lot. I think, can you put maybe a little bit more meat on the bone of when you talk about data in and a response out? Yep. So when someone is receiving data in, when there are things, stimuli in the world happening around them, what does that look like? What does that do to us? And when you talk about being either above or below that window, why is it that those kind of things can kind of set us off and make us get out of that zone of authenticity, creativity, kind of comfort?
Yep. Okay. So a couple things. One is what kind of stimulus are we talking about? Like, what are the things that contribute to where we're at in our window? So first of all, there's just what we're born with, right? So there are certain, as I said, each of us have a different window. Different things are going to push me up and out. Different things are going to push you down and out. And so for each of us, we've been given maybe a narrower or wider window than the person next to us. And that just is what it is. So there's the nature, then there's the nurture, right? So we've had experiences, our history tells us that certain things are to be feared, certain things are to be surveyed and to be kept vigilant about. So if you are, the classic is like, if you are a veteran who has been in active combat, there are sounds, there may be even smells or sights for you that are going to activate you and maybe get your nervous system churning more than for me, who has always been a civilian and has never been in a war.
Right.
So there's nurture in that way, right? Our experiences contribute to where we're at in our window. Then on the daily, there are things that come in through our environment. So experiences that I'm having, again, through my senses or through my emotions, what they activate in me, that adds to where I'm at within my window. Whether you come into a room and say to me, "Hey, honey, how do you want my help today?" That is going to help me stay in my window versus you coming in, in a huff, dropping your bag down. And I say this because I'm the one who does this, but dropping your bag down and going like, "How can I help?" Right. And things look like,
what do you need now?
Yeah. Things look like they're out of control. You clearly need me. That is going to push me to the edge of my window, if not send me right out of my window.
Help is finally here.
Yes. Yes. I'm here to save you because you are incompetent and can't handle this. Okay. So those are things that can contribute. Then there's the reality that relationally, right, the space between me and someone else is also going to contribute. It's another type of stimulus. It's another type of input that's coming into my system. And then there's the stuff that happens inside of me. So intrusive thoughts, my emotional reaction to things. We've kind of already covered that. But those are things that aren't necessarily sparked by something outside, but it still adds up. Kind of thinking this is like a math equation of sorts. And all of this adds up. So whether I take the steps it takes, and we'll talk about this in a minute, but to come back down to be securely kind of in the center of my window, or whether these things keep adding up. Your tone, a kid coming in crying because his brother just smacked him in the head with a baseball bat, whatever. Just in theory, like a plastic one.
Okay,
it was in the basement.
Right. Thank you for clarifying. That would send me out of my window and to the hospital pretty fast.
Whether I'm in the middle of dinner time that all this is happening, and I open the fridge and I realize nobody defrosted the chicken for dinner. Like all of those things. It sounds so silly, but all of those things add up to pushing me, up and out. On top of the fact that I didn't get great sleep last night. So already I was naturally riding on the margins, on the edges of my window. Did I answer all of your questions?
I think so. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. And what's really helpful about that is, we'll talk oftentimes about how there's a relationship between the window of tolerance of being able to remain in that sweet spot where I am able to be my most authentic self. And that is related to the idea of choosing my response to the world around me. That when I'm in that sweet spot, let's call it, like you said, 3 to 7, 4 to 7, somewhere in that range, in the middle between the two extremes, I am able to take in the stimulus that's from the outside, and I'm able to process a response and make an active choice. It's not just a reflex. I'm not just acting on instinct. It's participating with the will of God by using my free will to align with His and making a choice that's authentic to who I am. It's a choice that I'm going to be proud of 5 minutes or 5 years later.
Yes.
And when I'm either above or below my window, that's when I am out of free choice. There's always some free will. Our free will is never totally taken away, but I'm acting way more on reflex, on instinct. I'm not thinking before I act, on impulse. Yep. Thank you. Yep. Right.
So I want to talk about that more. I want to go back to what you were saying about knowing when we're in the window. And that's something that we work a lot with clients on, is helping them to recognize when it's happening and all of kind of the ancillary pieces that contributed to them being able to stay in their window. You know, when a client comes back and says, oh my gosh, my son who freaks out every morning that whatever I make for breakfast, he hates it. He doesn't want it. And normally we get into this like power struggle, this yelling match. And this morning I didn't. And so we break it down of like, okay, tell me all of the components of that. Like, how did you let yourself be in the window when normally you go up and out and you join him in the meltdown, you join him in the screaming match. So Siegel has recently said that he would identify being in the window, like the aspects of being in the window, with the acronym FACES. And so again, we'll put this in the show notes, but FACES stands for when I recognize I'm flexible, I'm adaptive, I'm coherent, I'm energized, and I'm stable. So I love this because he's really showing us this balanced, integrated perspective of the person. And he actually says when we're in the window, we are living in an integrated way. He uses that word and he says the different parts of my brain are connecting and they are sending messages to my body, to my words. I'm the whole person. So if we can just talk about faces for a second and just, look at these aspects and consider how important they are and how we can see that when we act with these traits, we are, as you said, proud of our response. 5 minutes, 5 days, 5 weeks from now. So to be flexible and adaptive, right? That, again, back to my point, my low earlier, or the heart of pivoting. Like when I'm in the window, I am able to move and to be more nimble with whatever comes my way. I made oatmeal. Kid says he wants yogurt. That doesn't have to be the end of my world when I'm in my window. He talks about being coherent and energized and stable. And I think about this particularly for me because I'm like a cartoon mom, like in the morning, like running around, like, and you see her as like this tornado or like the wind, like that blows past you.
Tasmanian devil. Yeah.
Yes. Right. And so when we are coherent, energized, and stable, it's, yes, there is moving the ball forward. Yes, there is productivity and getting us out the door, in this situation. But it's not leaving everyone in your wake like, holy buckets, what did I just experience? That was kind of scary. Yeah. And so I love that he's given us these really concrete factors to consider, these traits, so that we can notice, when it's showing up when we're in that window.
Yeah.
So back to your point, Pat, of like making decisions that we can like put our name on, right? That we'd be proud to stand by, when we are responding to maybe a demand at work or responding to a complaint with request for change from our spouse, responding to a tantrum from our kid. When we think about it, our regrettable decisions come from being outside of the window. And again, to like talk about that theme of shame, like we can, especially as people of faith, I think, go like, what is the matter with me? That like a follower of Christ, right? Someone who's trying to model the love of Christ. I just like screamed at my kid about the fact that he couldn't find his shoe or whatever. And so I think this can also help us, even on a deeper level, of being able to tap into some self-compassion of like, it's not that I'm a bad person that I made that choice, that I said something really critical to my husband or was dismissive of my son's upset feelings or my daughter's like needs for more tenderness from me. But like, wow, I was really outside of my window. And it doesn't exonerate us from like needing to make amends and from needing to be different going forward, but it makes it feel more possible because it's less about some character defect. It's less about like, I'm just a hopeless jerk. And it's more about like, oh my gosh, like I think I'm not slowing down enough. I think I'm letting life be at such a pace that I can't track where I'm at in my window and make some really thoughtful choices when I notice myself creeping up or creeping down to get back in.
Well, that was my thought too, is in your example of I lashed out at my kid and I screamed at them about something that is not objectively bad. They made a mistake, but I was outside of my window because of a thing that happened at work. So I lashed out at my kid. That needs to be brought to confession. So it's there is likely some level of sin there that needs to be confessed, it needs to be repented of, and it needs to be healed by the mercy of God. And also, there is something to that is really healthy to investigate and to ask the question, what could I have done earlier in the day to be able to be in a place to respond to that particular situation better? Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean that the sin wasn't a sin. What it means is I may be able to take concrete steps now to avoid that situation down the road. Like when something stressful does happen at work, maybe I don't listen to the news on the radio on the way home from work and just get more riled up about how terrible the world is. Mm-hmm. Maybe I need silence and I just shut everything off in the car and I can take some time to decompress and go from an 8 to a 5. Maybe I need to listen to a podcast like This Whole Life, and I need to be calmed by the voices of two lovely people, one lovely person, and then also me. What do I need to be able to get back inside my window so I can avoid the near occasion of sin like that in the future? Yeah. I think that's really valuable.
Yeah. Can we stay on that for just a second? Because when you and I are teaching this, particularly like in a large group setting, we do the psychoeducation on like what is the window of tolerance, and then we hit two topics, right? One is how do I get back in my window, and the other is how do I widen my window.
That's where I was going to go. So feel free to do what you need to do.
Yeah. First. So let's stay with the how do I get back in my window, because that's what you were just talking about.
Yep.
We discussed earlier that going down and out of your window is really characterized by rigidity, right? It's characterized by this freeze. And what we want to think about is getting back in requires an opposite action, right? So if I'm at a 2 and I want to get to a 5, I need to add 3 more, right? So to consider what is the opposite action of the rigidity, of the frozenness, right? Of this like kind of stagnation of activity. Mm-hmm. So to stimulate and to activate, to move your body, to kind of reawaken the senses, to re-engage, the whole of you, the experience of you, would be something that if you're finding yourself kind of chronically going down and out of the window, that would be your course. So what I'm standing at the island and kind of just in this frozen state because I'm like, I don't know what to do next. I don't know if I should clean up the wet, gross, muddy puddle of the snow boots that just got tracked in through the house. I don't know if I should go sweep from breakfast that never got cleaned up this morning. I don't know if I should start making dinner. I don't know if I should unpack the lunch boxes. I don't know if I should harp on the children who have not played the piano because I can hear that it's not being played. Like, right? This is all going on inside of me. What
hypothetically
it looks like outside of me. This is going to be me circa 4 o'clock today. But what's going on outside of me is I'm just frozen.
Yeah.
And what do I need? I just need to move. So maybe I roll out my neck. Maybe I literally stretch, like reach for my toes. I had a client and he noticed that he went down and out often and was getting ready for some family holidays where he knew he was going to be dysregulated. Mm-hmm. And so the choice that he made, the plan that we made for him was in these moments, he would step out into the cold and just take some deep breaths and kind of counteract the frozenness with this sharp, cold air, this really stimulating
shock to the system a little bit.
Yeah. So that's one. For those of us, when we find ourselves going up and out of the window, we want to slow down, right? If going up is characterized by the chaos, it's characterized by this flight and fight. It's very active. We want to slow down. Mm-hmm. The other day, I had one of these moments where I was trying to do 85 things at once.
Yeah.
Spoiler, it did not go well. And I was trying to like sweep under the island while barking out orders of kids to get stuff going on their routines, while cleaning up all the cajillions of writing and coloring utensils that happen on our island, like on a daily basis. And so I was stacking all of the bins of like markers and color pencils and crayons.
Oh yeah.
And I dropped the whole thing. Like I was finished. I was like ready to walk them down to the basement.
Oh, it hurts my heart. And I wasn't even there.
I dropped them. And I'm not kidding you. It was like a scene out of a movie. Like everyone stopped and just looked at me like, what's she going to do? Because they already knew I was pushing up against my window, right? There was already like too much energy to be, let's go back to energized, stable, and coherent. My actions were none of those things, right? And so like while I was, quote, being productive, everyone was like, she's gonna blow like any moment. And
just watching the volcano from afar.
Oh my gosh. And like I just vacuumed, I'd swept. I clean the counters and all of this comes tumbling down. And I just like look at our son, our third born was staying next to me. And he was like,
He's backing away slowly.
And I was like, put my hands on the counter and I just took some like deep, like guttural, like labor breath breathing. And was like, okay. And just started to clean up again. Right. But I had to slow down because if I kept moving, I was going to be at a 10 and people were going to be in my path. And
or an 11.
Right. It was not going to be cute. So that's when we think about getting back in our windows. And there are many times when we need to choose to self-soothe, to either come out of that down, to come out of that up, right? To come out of that place of chaos or rigidity, to get back in the window, to be in that place of faces, flexible, adaptive, right? All those things. Okay. So that's that. Mm-hmm. Then we want to think about widening our window. Did you want to say something?
Can I frame this a little bit?
Yeah.
Because the idea of widening the window is so fascinating to me and so doggone relevant. So like you said, everyone has a different window. Me and you, although we are married, have a different range of things that push us out of our window and make us respond to the world in ways that we wish we wouldn't have. It's also true that no one has a fully open window.
Yeah.
No one.
Clients tried to tell me that they do, and I'm like, I'm sorry, we're going to discover really soon here that you don't. Okay.
Interesting. Let me think about this for a second. Did Jesus have a perfectly open window of tolerance?
I have had people ask me that question.
Really? Huh.
Yes. My hunch is that he had moments of like overwhelm or being frozen, but didn't sin.
Exactly.
In the like overwhelm,
like
or
a natural
in the lack.
Human reaction to the world.
He doesn't cease to be human.
Correct. Right. Yeah. Full emotions, full will, but never sinful. Interesting. Yeah. And then Mary as well. Okay. Topic for a different day. But no one has a fully open window outside of possibly the two sinless humans in the whole world. All of us have something on the top and bottom. We have a range that we lose sense of our authentic self. So, this was more popular, I would say, a few years ago in the midst of COVID and some like political questions, things like that. You would get language thrown around on one side about things like safe spaces, right? That because the world is so distressing to me, I need to have a safe space. So there were literally universities in the United States and maybe beyond that had literal rooms that were called safe spaces. And they were essentially like, it was like the college version of maybe like a sensory room in an elementary school, room. Something like that.
Yeah.
So like a regulation room, and for all of the ways that sensory regulation is really good and crucial for every human being, that image became a little bit of a mockery of this idea of people's window being so small that the smallest little thing would set them off and quote unquote trigger them, right? Like that was the word they would use. And on the other side, you get folks who could lean in the direction of being really uncharitable, frankly, and just kind of cruel. You get terms like snowflake thrown around of somebody who's so weak and so pathetic that they can't deal with the stresses of the world, So
like a fragility,
right? Like if someone's window is only a 5, and anything like seemingly something that would not be a big deal to somebody else sets this person off for hours, and they can't come back from it easily. So, again, there's no shame in the idea of having a small window. It's likely that someone has a narrow window of tolerance because of things that were out of their control. Maybe it was a lot of the things that they inherited through nature, through their upbringing, through events in the world and in their life that have really taught them that they're not safe and that things can be really scary out there. So if I have a very narrow window, what can I do to try to expand that window to tolerate the circumstances of my life more easily? And if I'm in a relationship with someone, if I'm near someone who has a narrow window, how can I relate to that person in a way that's loving but also helpful? Yeah.
So a couple things, I would say I want to take the qualifier off of it of like very narrow. And I would say it's up to each person to decide, like if your life is such that you cannot function in the way that you want to. We would say the glory of God is the human person fully alive.
Right.
If you are finding that you are not fully alive, right, that you're living in a quote safe space trying to bring your bubble with you all the time.
Yeah.
Little things set you off. You're finding that, it's hard to be in a relationship with many people. That I would say is good reason to consider, gosh, how can I actively pursue widening my window? How might I challenge myself to step into situations that are on the edge, right? Even in therapy, we say, I don't want to take you out of your window. Certainly there are moments that it happens and we don't see it coming. Something gets activated, a memory gets triggered, a trauma gets triggered, and it happens. And then we have to work together to bring that client back into their window.
Yep.
But what I do want to do in therapy is I want to take you to the edge. I want to take you up against the window frame, and I want to stretch that just a little bit more. And so I will truly practice, right? This is why role plays and experiential therapy are so big, because we get to simulate that conversation again with your spouse, and you're going to practice responding from within the window instead of a defensive, guarded, high walls place like up and out of your window.
Yep.
So how do we do this? I mean, we've kind of talked about it. Like, I want to intentionally choose activities. I want to notice the things that seem to take me out, and I want to take the time to reflect on, like, gosh, what do I wish that would look like when son comes down for breakfast and loses his cool over whatever I picked, which, by the way, we talked about it last night, and he picked this thing, but in his sleep, he changed his mind.
Yep.
This may or may not be a real thing that happens in our life. But I want to think in advance of, like, what do I wish? How do I wish I would respond to that? Maybe even practice that, even script myself a little bit of a narrative, and then be able to use it. Like, that stretches my window.
Yeah.
And then I turn around and go, oh my gosh, I just did that. I just did that thing that, like, I think an ideal response would be in that situation. I just did that thing.
Yeah.
And we're adding that muscle memory. We're flexing that. We're stretching it. We're growing it. For myself, I know I have this group of folks that I am connected with, and sometimes I feel very outside of that group for a whole lot of reasons. And yet I want to be connected to them. And so when I think about stepping into those that circle and into those social situations, I have to be intentional about my mindset going in. For me personally with this thing, I tell myself, like, I can just be present and receive whatever comes of this gathering.
Yeah.
This doesn't have to be something that really grows me. This doesn't have to be, I don't have to receive a lot from this group. I can just enjoy their company, and that's okay. I can have friendships that aren't super deep and, stretching me and growing me and challenging me and all these things. And when I'm there, when I'm present, something gets said that maybe, pricks a little bit of a wound, but this isn't a group that I feel comfortable talking about that with. I can remind myself, like, I'm just going to receive. I'm just going to let myself be in the moment. I don't have to take things too personally. I don't have to take them to heart. I can really just enjoy it for what it is at face value.
Yeah.
But we have to choose those things. And I think, to your point earlier of maybe what can happen in the broader culture is I experience something that's like, oh, I didn't like that. Oh, that was really dysregulating for me. That really sent me down and out, or that sent me up and out. I'm going to cut myself off from those kinds of experiences going forward. And what I say to my clients is, like, man, you are painting yourself into a very small world, right? You are painting yourself into
a small window. Like, that's a good way to shrink my window, is to avoid anything that might cause me discomfort.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it's an active choice, and it's a higher level. It requires the prefrontal cortex, because my brainstem, my limbic system, like my fight, flight, freeze part of me is not going to choose that. That doesn't make sense to my survival instinct. That only makes sense to the most sophisticated part of my brain that says, we want more than a small life. We want more than a small circle. We want more than only being able to hang out with that one person. Like, we want to be able to tolerate more distress and discomfort. We want it to be less taxing. Like, that only comes from the front of my brain. And so I have to work on it in an active kind of calm. I have to actively choose it from a place of calm. That's not something I can choose in a state of alarm, in a state of dysregulation.
Yeah.
And so we've got to be making the time, making the space to be reflective, which is maybe the hardest part in a world where it's so easy to not think about what are the things that cause me distress, which spoiler, is going to be part of our challenge by choice. But yeah, so.
I remember talking about this principle when we talked about the anxious generation and training kids for technology and ourselves for technology, that technology is a very, all the different forms of it, but especially social media, is a very effective means of avoiding discomfort.
Yeah.
So if I'm waiting in line at the grocery store and I'm bored, and I don't want to have the discomfort of talking to somebody nearby, God forbid.
Or just the discomfort of boredom.
Or just the discomfort of standing there, right, of being bored. It's natural, second nature now, just to whip out my phone and just start scrolling, you know. And one of the things that Jonathan Haidt talks a lot about in The Anxious Generation, and he doesn't connect it to the window of tolerance, but I think it's exactly what he's getting at, is almost requiring our kids to get into difficult situations. Yes. That part of parenting is putting your child in a situation that is a challenge. Number one, so that we would say in this episode, they can grow their window, so they can expand their window. So they're, we talked about with Dr. Catherine Posh as well, related to OCD. One of the most reputable treatments for obsessive and compulsive disorder is ERP, exposure and response prevention. So you expose someone to the thing that triggers the kind of obsessive and compulsive behaviors, but then you challenge them to not respond in the way that they're used to.
Right.
And to see that even if I don't respond, the terrible thing that I expected did not come.
We literally have a child who feels very overwhelmed, which I've learned is a really common thing, actually. This child feels very overwhelmed ordering food or like speaking to like clerks in a store.
Yep.
And this child says, I feel like I'm inconveniencing them. And we say, it is literally their job. They literally get paid to take your order or to help you find the Scotch tape. But we've been challenging this child to do so, right? Mm-hmm. Sending this child in safely, but like sending this child into a store with a credit card and being like, can you go get the thing? And it always helps when this child wants the thing themselves.
Totally, right, yep.
The other day, this kid wanted a snack from the gas station.
Yep.
I think the kid was like craving French fries or something.
French fries.
And we were like, okay, here you go. Here's the credit card. You were pumping gas. I was in the front seat. We're like, here's the credit card. Go get the French fries. And this kid was like, wait, what? And we're like, yeah, go fumble futz.
How bad do you want it, kid?
Have to ask for help on how to insert the card if you don't know how. It's literally what they're there for.
Yep.
And the child came back and was like, oh my gosh, I did it. Like proudly, I think carrying two things of fried potatoes.
Gas station fries, by the way.
I think it was actually gas station hash browns from that morning.
That's true.
It was actually really gross. But anyways, but I was like, you're so proud of yourself and I'm so proud of you.
Yep.
Right? Like, but actively choosing that, making the willful choice to go, okay, I'm going to, like you said, ERP, exposure and response. Like I'm going to step into this situation that I know can make me feel uncomfortable, but I have an idea of how I can do it differently from my faces, right? From a place of flexibility, adaptability, coherence. Love it.
And for many of us as adults, we don't have to go looking for exposure, right? Like when I walk in the door of my house, there is going to be exposure to discomfort. There are going to be smells. Yesterday, we were getting ready to go out and give a talk, and I walked into our bedroom, which is a decent, it's from the toilet of our bathroom to my closet is a good 30 feet. And standing in my closet, I was like, did the sewer back up? This is terrible timing. We have to go give a talk, and the babysitter's here. Did the toilet back up? Nope. A child has used the toilet, and for the umpteenth time did not flush. All I'm saying is the Malays have room to grow, but there's no lack of exposure for us as adults.
Right, because you could have flown off the handle, no pun intended.
Right.
Could have flown off the handle at the child. Instead, you were like, daggone it, we have room to grow still.
Yep.
I'm going to flush the toilet, and we're going to walk out the door.
So it's about how can I think ahead? And what do I need, again, like to get back into my window, either stimulating with movement or kind of calming with deep breaths or with kind of attunement to get back into my window so I can prevent the response that I don't want to have.
Yeah. We've talked about this before. I can't even remember what episode we talked about it. Maybe in the OT episode, the senses and regulation episode with Caitlin Russ. But we've talked about sensory, that a lot can be helped in terms of getting back in the window through the senses. So for me, sound is so big, and lights. Yeah. Like being able to dim the lights at night when I'm like, the day is done and I have just been like surfing on the edge of my window for the last 4 hours through bedtime and dinner time and homework time and piano time and But being able to turn off music, right? There are times when maybe you being out of down, maybe low, want music to like energize you and to jazz you up and to come in and make dinner and do the routine in a joyful way. And I'm like, I cannot handle more on top of this right now. So you asked a question a little bit ago about what do we do when we're in relation with someone who maybe is outside of their window and what have you. And this is one of those tricky moments where it's like, you can't control it you know, for them. You could ask if there's openness for feedback and put it up on the fence post of like, hey, I've noticed that when you, I think this happened to us recently. Yeah, this happened to us recently when we were both home after school one day and I observed that you, who don't often get very up and out of your window, that I felt like you were like a little barky with the kids, if I can say, and just seemed a little bit chaotic and a little bit frenetic. And you said to me, I feel so much pressure to get the routine done, to get the kid, to push the kids through all the things, all the chores they need to do, all the tasks, all the homework. Like it's just, it's crazy. And I said to you, could we let go and make dinner? I think you said, and make dinner and have it ready by 5. And I said, could we let go of that expectation then? Like, I agree that getting the kids through the routine when they get home from school, because once you let them play, it kind of...
It's over. Yep.
Yeah. But I said, can we be okay with dinner being a little bit later? People are older now than they used to be. I think we can wait. You know, they have a healthy big snack after school. Like, they can wait. And you were like, okay, I think that will help. So, you know, to be able to put it up on the fence post and God willing, you're in a relationship, you're in a space with a kid or a parent or a roommate or whatever, a colleague, where there can be that behavioral objective feedback and that freedom to say and that freedom to receive without it feeling like an attack. But outside of that, just managing your own window is really what it takes, right? And our kids are a great example of that. They are up and out or down and out of their windows in a flash, and it's constantly being presented to us. Like, how am I going to respond? How am I going to stay securely in my window, even in the presence of you losing sight of yours, so that I don't go with you. I don't go up and out or down and out with you. And
the window language, I think for us in our marriage, and I think even with our kids sometimes, the window language actually can be really helpful because it's less critical, shaming, and villainizing than a lot of the ways that we humans sometimes speak to each other, right? So you coming into the kitchen with me and saying, hey, it seems like you're out of your window right now. Is there something that I can do? Or is there something that you need? That is way better than stop screaming at the children again. Or what's your problem? You know, like that the window language takes it off of the person as you are the problem. You're making this active choice that's hurting people around you, and it puts it on their response to the world around them. Sure, they may need to make a different choice in behavior, but that is likely not going to happen if all I'm doing is speaking to them as the person and not speaking to the behavior itself.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Piling on the shame that the person is already feeling, right? Because none of us want to be acting outside of our windows. None of us want to be, you know, in a place of chaos or in a place of rigidity and obstinance. Like, none of us want that. Nobody listening, none of us who are seeking to live an integrated life desire that, but we find ourselves in that place. And I love the window of tolerance because I think it's more hopeful than coming at this as like it's a character defect or it's just the temperament I've been given and there's nothing I can do about that. Like, no, we can stretch that. We can challenge that. We can flex the muscle.
Yeah. You hinted at a challenge by choice earlier.
Let's do it.
Why don't you pay off the tease? What do you got?
I know this is going to be, speaking of challenge, it's going to be a challenge for me to explain it because usually I'm with someone in my office or we're giving a presentation in person and you can see me. So this is one of those moments where I'm like, feeling a little stifled by the audio only format, but just roll with me here. I'm going to try to explain it. So imagine that on a piece of, you know, computer paper, you've drawn a box in the center, right? That is your window. In the center of this, quote, wall, you've drawn the window, and that is your window of tolerance. That's your 4 to 7 sweet spot, let's say. And on the left side of the window, the left frame of the window is when you woke up this morning. The challenge by choice I want to give is like mapping out the day as it has unfolded relative to the window. So again, I said to you this morning, I woke up, I got great sleep last night. I'm coming off of a couple nights of kind of inexplicable insomnia that made me feel truly just ugh, just gross. And so I woke up this morning and I felt awesome. And so I was like square, firmly, securely in my window of tolerance. Then we started to get ready for school and I couldn't find socks for the girls, which is like a perennial issue. And my gosh, it just needs to be St. Nicholas Day because they are getting so many pairs of socks. But so I would say I went up and I crept up toward, I'd say like I was, a couple inches more toward the top of my window. Then we were driving, we were listening to Christmas music. Everyone was getting along. It was actually a really smooth process, figuring out what playlist we were going to use today, all those things. I came kind of back down out of my state of maybe more dysregulation. I was squarely back in the window. Then there was traffic on the highway, and we have a friend who we pick up and take him kind of part of his leg of his journey to work.
Yeah.
And I thought not only about him being late, but him waiting in the cold because he gets off of the train and waits for us.
Yeah.
And so then I was up at the top of my window, right? So map that out and notice in particular, I was thinking of like an EKG, like notice the peaks and the valleys and like, what are those? And do this for a week. I challenge my clients. Of course, I see my clients every week. So I say like, okay, I taught you this today. Now I want you to make a map of your window. So every day I'm going to have one of these boxes. Yes. Every day you're going to have a box because the left side is going to be when I woke up and the right side is going to be sometime in the evening, whenever you decide to map out your day.
Sure.
And then look at the patterns over time. What are those trouble spots? So to pick on you again, Pat, I would say,
cool.
If we were mapping out your window, we maybe would have noticed there was this spike up every afternoon, right? Every afternoon that you were doing the afternoon routine and making
what a weird
dinner.
Coincidence.
Yeah,
what goes on at 4:00 every day?
And so we get this insight of like, okay, what back to that faces, right? What kind of flexibility, what kind of adaptability do I need so that I can be in a place of stability at 4:00 every day? This happens to me. Or gosh, bedtime, I'm squarely in my window. I love tucking the kids in. They are so cuddly. They're so sweet. They're chatty, maybe too chatty. But they want to share about their day. I love that. Okay. Maybe I want to actually make more time for the bedtime routine because that's really a moment of connection for us as a family or for me with my kid. I want to make more space for that. So looking at what helps me get back in the window, what are the moments where I have sustained experience in the window? What are things that pull me down? What are things that pull me up? Just notice those patterns and consider what kinds of adjustments need to be made or how can I prolong my experience in the window? So that's the challenge by choice. So let me know how that feels coming in just as you're listening.
Graphing out your window days.
Yes.
That's perfect.
Maybe I'll make an Instagram reel about it. But
that's great. Beautiful. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
Great. Shall we pray?
Are you going to pray for us?
I'm happy to pray for us. Yeah.
Right.
Why don't I do that? Let's do it. In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Lord God, you made us in your image and likeness, and you created us fully human, and you desire for us to be fully alive, to be united with you, to be connected to one another, to be integrated within ourselves. And we ask for your blessing on each of us, Lord, that you would watch over us and guide us, help us to grow and develop in the ways that we respond to a fallen world. Lord, help us to grow in resilience, to widen the window of tolerance that each of us has so that we can make more free and holy and authentic choices. Lord, we ask for your forgiveness for the ways that we have responded to the world in ways that are outside of your will when we were above or below our window. And we ask for the grace to have the wisdom to know what we need and to have the humility to take the steps necessary to get back into our window whenever we're outside of it. Lord, bless us, guide us, help us to continue to grow in love for you and love for one another, and help us to live lives of virtue and clarity in the way that we respond to the world. We ask all this, Jesus, in your name. Amen.
Amen.
In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Get out there and stay in that window to the best of your ability. And when you get outside of it, like everybody does, to get what you need to get back in it. Yeah. It's going to be great. Super blessed to talk through this with you, dear listener. We would love to hear any of your feedback on it. You can always keep up with us online at thiswholelifepodcast.com. You can connect with us on Instagram and Facebook at This Whole Life Podcast. Maybe Kenna will make a reel about this visual window charting that you can check out and glory in the visual example of it. And we will see you next week for the next Storytellers episode.
Yeah.
Right? God bless you, friends.
You're not alone, you're not alone, you're not alone.
This Whole Life is a production of the Martin Center for Integration. Visit us online at thiswholelifepodcast.com.
You're not alone, you're not alone, you're not alone.
Master of the arts in theology.
Now you sound like the commencement address guy.
Who?
Like the guy who announces what degree is being conferred.
Does he talk like that?
Yeah, I think so. I'm pretty sure.